Hello, I'm Dr. Sam Hancock of the Emerald Planet and Emerald Planet TV. We come to you on a week-to-week basis from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we look around the globe in 144 different nations, looking for those 1,000 best practices, the technology, services, and products that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And as we have a planet of 9 billion people by 2038 and possibly 12 to 13 billion by the end of this century, how are we going to be able to take care of all these people on planet Earth? And that's what Emerald Planet's all about. We come to you looking at the solutions, the best practices from around the globe as we create the Emerald Planet. Hello, welcome to the Emerald Planet. We're making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And seeing the long-term impacts of climate change. We're glad to have you. Thank you for being with us. And we're looking around the globe as far as the coronavirus and other influenzas as well as disasters and anything that interrupts normal human activity. And so I have a real expert sitting right beside me. It's going to be talking about the coronavirus, its impact, but also the hundreds of other viruses that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, disrupt families, communities, entire nations. And so we have to move on and see how we can do things in toto to plan in advance. And that's one of the things that we forget as societies, is if something happens, we answer the call, but we don't until it's too late. The call has already been made. And so this gentleman, this is Charles, he goes by Chuck Botwick. He's the president of CHB Infrastructure, Technology, and Marketing Group, and also the IPAK-Individual Personal Aid Kit Company, which is really critical in these days as far as dealing with all types of contagions. And Chuck, welcome back to the Emerald Planet TV.
Always great to be with you, Sam.
Tell us a little bit about the CHB, but also IPAK, both of those, and then let's get into what we're really talking about is contagion of all kinds and natural disasters.
Well, I'm a water chemist by training, so I've been all over the world to deal with the quality of potable water. And what you learn is that a great deal of disease is communicable in waterborne form, but also otherwise, as we have now with the coronavirus. So we always have a situation where we have public health challenges around the world. They're to be expected.
Yeah. And looking at, this is a beautiful image of water. Why is water so essential? One, as far as life is concerned, because we now have expanded its water plus oxygen that we have to have for really life, even though it's H2O. But also as far as looking at all these various contagions and natural disasters, water somehow figures into all of this. So it's our great savior, but it's also the great destructor.
Right, well, unfortunately, a great deal of the world's water supplies are contaminated, so that drinking water, when it's available, makes people sick. We also have a problem with wastewater treatment and disposal. Untreated wastewater or poorly treated wastewater, it gets into the river basins and water distribution networks of the world everywhere, so that contaminated wastewater is also spreading disease. So situations where you have in the past H1N1 or other types of influenza, they're not necessarily waterborne, but the issue of public health and how to deal with basic hygiene is what's critical.
Yeah, and that's really the universal theme, isn't it? Really, it's hygiene, and it's our personal responsibility, not just the state or other organizations, but it really resides with the individual and the family.
Right. Well, this is an area where particularly, and in today's environment, people ask, what can I do? And a mother in China or a mother in Detroit, somebody in a high-rise apartment or somebody in a village wants to feel that they can take personal responsibility. and you can up to a point. This is why everybody talks about the basic hygiene principles, washing your hands, disinfecting surfaces, and so on. So I've coined the term hygiene for a small planet is what we need. We're a small planet because there really are no borders.
Yeah, it really is, and we live. But looking at the coronavirus, tell us what it is, why we're really so focused on that right now, because the flu kills way more people than this disease and most of the other contagions combined. So, but yet, every year it seems like we have a new focus, a new, scary germ that's going to do some great damage to us as humans and as societies.
Well, we're more or less conditioned every year to expect some sort of flu outbreak, influenza. And so one year it's H1N1, another year it's just the flu. And
SARS is part of that as well.
Right, exactly. And so people get flu shots and they try to be prepared. And I even joked with people before this season, well, we might have S2-392X, just making up something fictional. Right. Well, unfortunately, what's not fictional is coronavirus, which has a very strong impact on the world right now and is a true pandemic.
Now, looking at the disease itself, what are we actually seeing in this thing? It certainly is ugly, but what are we seeing here? Or just because it's something that we can look at through a microscope doesn't mean that we're really seeing that much. It's what it's doing. The outcomes is what's so important to deal with.
Right. Well, it spreads very rapidly. With close contact of individuals through the air, contaminated surfaces. It's debated how long the virus stays alive on surfaces, but this is why everybody is disinfecting surfaces. But these are standard practices that are so important. So with the coronavirus, the issue of containing the spread, testing is key, and the ability to mitigate the spread by basic hygiene programs, but also minimizing personal contact. That's why you see so many public events being canceled. It's unprecedented, but it's prudent.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that we need to do. So, stop the coronavirus. You're talking about, in essence, have space. In other words, not have people in mass groups where they can spread this from one individual to the other. And they talked about not wiping your nose and then touching your eyes and then your lips and all these other kinds of things. But looking at stopping the coronavirus, what other things can be done besides people just making sure that they're very clean themselves, but also they continue to clean the surfaces around them wherever they are?
Right. Well, the other thing is to be basically prepared with the ability to take your own temperature, to have supplies for just surface disinfection, counters, doorknobs, things of this sort, whether it's a workplace, a home, or otherwise. These are the basic things that we're going to learn to continue to do in greater fashion in the future.
So what these new steps that we're taking, in other words, virtually every toilet you go in now, there's a way to clean your hands, but when you get ready to go out the door, there's a little paper tissue, there's usually some sanitation wipe that you can put on. You open the door, put that in. 3 or 4 weeks ago, you would never see those. Now they're absolutely everywhere.
Right.
So it shows that we can really perform, at the same time we can respond when we really need to, or we're motivated by fear to do this.
Right. Well, I think what we're going to see and what we have to do is have a long-term change once this crisis passes in just basic personal and workplace public space hygiene. We'll get back to normal, but we need a new normal about being more vigilant.
Yeah, this is somebody who was washing my hands. Somebody said, I'm not trying to get fresh with you, but we really are taking longer to wash our hands, aren't we? And just laughed. And absolutely it was true, because I was doing my count to 20 seconds, You know, normally you don't do that.
Right,
You know,
right.
you wash your hands and you dry them and all that. But now we're really being more vigilant about what we're doing. But going to this special pack that now exists for the coronavirus, this is something, actually, it goes back 4 or 5 years. You and I started talking about these various packs, you know, for cholera, for,
Right.
you know, many malaria, many other different diseases that people would have, the flu, of course. And yet, you know, you're saying to me 12, 15 months ago, there'll be a new something, and of course this has now appeared, but you're ready for it this time. So what is this pack about, and how can people use this to protect themselves?
Well, we call it an IPAK, which stands for Individual Personal Aid Kit. And the idea is that you can take personal responsibility, and the idea is that the kit has those kind of things which almost everybody reaches for, but it's all convenient and packaged to include disposable thermometers, tablets which can be made into a bucket of bleach instead of having to buy a big container. So you have tablets, you have the masks, hand sanitizer, but also oral rehydration salts. It's very important to stay hydrated to help mitigate the disease.
Now tell us a little more about that. This is something that actually I stay hydrated 70, 80 ounces a day. I take my, you know, white apple vinegar cider, and so, but most people don't do that. So how does this become the new normal?
Well, the population as a whole, we all tend to be chronically dehydrated. It makes us more vulnerable. So part of it is to make ourselves less vulnerable by better health practices, and part of it is just personal hydration. Because if you have dry membranes, it's easier to get sick.
I see. Okay. And this is something about the mask. Now, there's many myths about the mask. Everybody wants one. They want multiples of these. But do these really do any good? And what should we be wearing if we want to use a mask?
Right. Well, the so-called N95 masks are really made for medical professionals. They should be properly fit tested. And if anybody's worn one, they get very hot and it's hard to breathe. So to wear them a long time, as you see a lot of people wearing a mask all day, those type of masks are surgical masks, which can be 3-ply and have a certain efficiency at catching particles of various sizes. So if you're inclined to wear a mask, you'd wear a surgical mask for a long period of time, and you would change it often. But staying out of crowds at this point is prudent, but also enhanced personal hygiene.
Right.
And that's what we need to do going forward, is to realize we're a small planet. What's proven is there really aren't any borders, and you have to take responsibility as an individual, a workplace, and a society to mitigate the exposure.
Yeah, we've had this up before as far as this Corona kit. Let me jump over because we're running out of time. I'm going to leave this up. One of the most simple things we can do is wash our hands, keep the surfaces clean around us. What other 2 or 3 or 4 things should people be doing not just right now, but again, developing this new normal? And we're going to go out on that question.
Right. Well, part of it is to be prepared to, if you have symptoms, be able to take your own temperature to determine if you have a fever is very important. So also having thermometers or disposable thermometers, and also complete hygiene of surfaces and so on, and to do the basics that your mother taught you.
Right, okay. Everything they say, what was it in the old book? It was everything you need to know you learned by kindergarten. And I think a lot of that is actually true. Thank you for being with us. This is Chuck Botwick, president of CHB, and also IPAK-Individual Personal Aid Kit. Thank you for being with us as we look around the globe to create the Emerald Planet.